Farm owner Gary Bean has spent his entire life in agriculture, but he's never lived through something like this. Of the more than 1,200 acres that make up his farm, more than 600, half, is left fallow.
Is that heartbreaking?
It's stressful because I know what I can do if I have the water to grow the crops, and I feel like I'm spinning my wheels.
For most of California, the years-long megadrought is a slow-motion disaster. 97% of the state is under some measure of drought emergency, from severe to exceptional. But in the state's Central Valley, where 40% of all the fruits and nuts in the nation are grown, the economy is spiraling.
Have you ever had this much of your farm left fallow?
No, not since we've been on this farm. Since 1972, we haven't, no.
The lack of fields to work means less work to go around. Farm workers are leaving the region in droves to find sustainable jobs. Gustavo Morales grew up on the bean farm. His family lives on the property. His dad is the foreman. But with limited opportunity, he says he has to make the right decision for his children and will soon leave for another job.
Feels kind of bad.
Why?
Need water, for it to grow. Been here all my life,
Have you ever seen a drought this bad?
No, like this. Not right here. Other places, like they have workers and they let them go because they don't have work for them, and it's different in other places.
The agriculture industry here in California is the largest in the country. They average about $50 billion worth of annual revenue. But because this drought has been so severe for so long, growers have had to cut back, which has led to a lot of pain both here on the farm and at the table.
Miles away, in Fresno, California, Rosie's, a farm-to-table Mexican restaurant, lives and dies by local agriculture and the availability of fresh produce and livestock.
How is business now?
Now it's a little bit hard because, the prices for the meat and it's a little bit high.
And because her customers, many of them families of farm workers themselves, are also suffering, she won't raise prices.
What makes you stay?
Because I love the people, I like my job, and I try to stay.
Far beyond the country's breadbasket, in produce aisles from coast to coast, where inflation and gas prices are already forcing everyday Americans to make tough choices, experts say those fallow fields will have a huge impact.
This drought, 2022, is terrible. And everybody should recognize that. It really is disastrous. It's disastrous for farm workers, for farmers, and their communities. The rest of us will notice in our food prices for the kinds of things that are specialty crops in California. Think of asparagus, think of cherries this spring. A little later, think of carrots and other fruits and vegetables, and those prices will be a bit higher.
A painful reminder of resources scarce, poised to pinch all Americans with no relief in sight.
Steve Patterson is joining us now live from California. Steve, it's interesting. I lived in LA. I covered the California drought in 2014, right? Specifically on almond farms and everything else.
Yeah.
This is an issue that hasn't gone away. It is getting worse and worse. I wonder, what are farmers trying to do differently now? Or is it just they have to accept that this is Mother Nature and this is what's happening?
It's a little mix of both. So they're doing a few things to try to mitigate, right? First, look around. This is one of the fallow fields that are now covering this stage. So Gary Bean, who I talked to in that piece, this is his farm. 1,200 acres here, 600 plus is now left fallow, just like this field. He would like to plant some onions or tomatoes or melons. Instead, he says he has to focus on specific high-yield crops. So things like this almond orchard that he has about a half-mile down the road or so. He's focused on that because it takes less to produce more, so he gets a higher value for the crops that he's producing. But those crops take much more water, so it's like this cyclical cycle that farmers are caught in because there simply isn't enough water. So now he's drilling very deep into the ground using these high-priced wells all across the farm to try to bring up as much water as possible. But that's a finite resource. It's really a tough situation for these farmers who are now thinking about laying off workers where there aren't any fields to work, Hallie.
Hey, Steve, real quick, what's the inflation factor in all this?
I think it's already, we're seeing it at the grocery store already, at specific places all across the country. It only hurts the situation. More gasoline on top of climate change, on top of gas prices, on top of the war in Ukraine, making everything worse, along with, obviously, the changing climate that we're in.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.